Martin and Cole are very good listeners.
What are we talking about? I wasn't really paying attention.
Hi, I'm Martin,
Hi, I'm Cole.
and we are the very good listeners.
We weren't before.
No.
We literally just became.
we birthed. And we're talking about Vampire Weekend. Father of the Bride. It's Father of the Bride, right?
That was Mother of the Groom.
Oh fuck.
Shit.
Okay. So Cole picked the album, so I'm wondering, why did you pick this album for this week?
Okay, so it's like the big boy album right now. Like, I'm pretty sure it didn't debut at number one, but like it kind of rose there, I guess, because whatever, probably trap album, like if people stopped caring about it.
Like just before, it was just after Old Town Road.
It was yes,
or just before, or
Yeah.
something like that.
and maybe they rose to the occasion because like in the post like Old Town Road landscape we have room for like yeehaw music now.
The vacuum.
And literally the album opens with like some of the most yee music I've heard.
Really?
And that isn't, yeah, because like,
I don't know if I would consider it that. I think it's like evangelical.
it is. It's very
The opening track is like so like
wholesome.
Jesus time.
The Lord.
But I do like the way that the choir vocal with like the electronic augmentations
That's
of it.
super, like that's like exactly, I think that's kind of like Vampire Weekend's wheelhouse, is like to take a sample that's like, and they use it in an obvious way, but then they make it not obvious.
Yeah.
That's a Hans Zimmer sample. That's like it's like from film score or something.
Do they do stuff like that in like previous albums? I don't know enough about,
yeah, a lot of their, especially on the one before this one, Modern Vampires, they do a lot of sampling. There's a few songs on that album that are like based around samples. Like the big song from the album is Step, which had a lot of radio play, and that one is like the chorus is based around a sample, I think, from a hip hop group.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's something that's like not totally out of their wheelhouse.
Okay. And they don't I don't think they rely too heavily on sampling.
No.
But it's still like a part of the...
If anything, this is the album they use it the least. Like this album was, to my knowledge, mostly based around like just like in the studio, we're gonna play the song like we were playing it live and then record it like that.
Speaking of in the studio, I find that the album is so like hi-fi, like almost, I don't want to say unbearably hi-fi, but like it's like it feels like a pop album.
It is very, signs bordering on overproduced for sure. Like it is for the most parts it's really squeaky clean.
And I don't think that that like ruins it in any way.
No,
I think it's but I wouldn't call it like an indie rock or an indie pop record. I think I'd put it wherever you put like Coldplay.
Yeah, it is definitely in the like. Well, I think the thing that's drawing the most from is like really clean music from a different decade. Yeah, like the vibe I'm getting the most from it is like, not necessarily Damn, but more like Fleetwood Mac, that particular flavor of like 70s pop rock.
Yeah, it feels like very crisp and old.
It is very crisp and old, like that, like the apple dessert your grandmother keeps telling you should eat after dinner, but you never do. Has that been there since the war?
It's very expired. I don't feel that way about Vampire Weekend. I feel that way about maybe other bands.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what band is Expired Apple Crisp? That's freaking Gridavant.
That's no. That's The Who.
Oh,
like right now.
Oh,
like if you were to go to a Who concert, like with what's his name, the singer is just like he's done already. It's not good.
It should be called like the Why. Like, why are we still at this? We made so much goddamn money.
Yeah,
in the 70s.
I think if you've made enough money, why do you have to like keep going?
For the fans.
But if it sounds bad.
For the fans. We'll be bad for the fans.
On a completely different note, completely unrelated, have you heard of Brett Domino?
Brett Domino. No, I haven't.
Okay, I'm gonna show you a video. So when we like edit this, it's gonna be like it'll pop up on the screen.
kids. Lyric-wise, we need something quite cool and sexy. I find a good way of doing this is just by listing the names of a few capital cities. Let's pick Tokyo. I'm just going to put it into a rhyme search engine, which should bring up all the words that rhyme with it. There's some good ones. Romeo, Pinocchio, Solo. It's kind of rhymes. Alone doesn't. I've been to London, Paris and Tokyo. I think of you when I'm alone. You know that I could be your Romeo. You're treating me like Pinocchio because of the lion. Maybe that's a theme. Doesn't need to make a lot of sense.
Okay. So whenever I listen to the closer of the album, all I can fucking think of
is this asshole listing capital cities.
Yeah, it just feels like he watched the video. I was like, I can make a song that's pop.
And it doesn't help that it's like the one. It has like an EDM like boom boom boom. It's like, and apparently it was supposed to sound like Sophie, which is kind of like saying that like the ABC's is literature. Like, I guess.
I think there's a couple points on the album where I feel that it is kind of like a very typical. It's not just the fact that he mentioned cities, because everyone does that, but I think there are a few times where it's like, I feel like I've heard this before.
Yeah.
And like some of the album, I think it helps to be like that because it's nostalgic, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. It's playing on familiarity.
Yeah, exactly. But I think for how long the album is, because it's an hour long.
It's very
huge.
long, especially for Vampire Weekend, who usually has very short albums. It's quite long.
So I had a hard time listening to it because the system we did is that we picked the album like a week ago.
Yeah. And
then we listened to it like every day since we picked it. Mm-hmm. I did skip like a day or two.
Yes, but absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I think trying to fit in an hour to listen to.
Ooh, yeah, no, you have to like. It's a bit of a time sink, and no, I would agree. It doesn't really reward it all the way through.
Yeah,
especially in that last leg where it kind of really
for me it's in the middle. I think right around Rich Man is when I lose like focus, and I'm like, this song is so just
yeah, Rich Man isn't great. I really think that like the vocal effects, like that like use of, I'm gonna put regular me in one ear and auto-tune me in the other ear. They use that so much on that record, and that's not, I think they've used that on other records too.
See, I really like every time they used like an interesting vocal effect. I really liked it.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it's on the second last song, or like one, like
Spring Snow.
I think so. Like the opening, like ooh. Yeah, I think I fucking love that.
My problem with that, and it's very petty, is like what I'm thinking of is, do you remember when they or this is actually like a bit of obscure toy history. Remember the T-Pain mic?
Yeah.
Oh my god. So those are like really valuable now. Like if you have a T-Pain mic, like you absolutely should be in the market to like try and sell it, because apparently they like are worth a lot of money now, because they just, I don't know, maybe they didn't sell that much.
There's a video of Simon the Magpie like modding one, and it's awesome.
And so I'm just thinking of like every like little dorky kid's first instinct when they see that, oh, I have auto-tune now, is to go like just absolutely break it.
But I think that's a lot of people use auto-tune in that way.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Who says that T-Pain
doesn't
literally
use it
in that?
Yeah, that's literally the sonic aesthetic of the current pop.
And I think there's nothing. I think for me that doesn't rub me the wrong way, but I understand why.
Yeah, it's a little goofy, and I think it would work. It works really well for an intro because it's just a weird sort of like, especially in like the dichotomy it creates with the very naturalistic sounding like instrumental. Yeah. But then the fact that that's the chorus just feels very anticlimactic, because that album has some pretty sweet choruses.
Yeah,
like the choruses on this album are really its strength to me.
Like Harmony Hall for sure.
That's a chorus. This life. I think This Life, because I think it's really catchy. The melody's really good. Catchy.
But I find like being like, you've been cheating. It just feels, there's something like the joyfulness of the way he says it versus what he's actually like singing about. There's something like wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely, there's an uncanny valley going on, because like especially like we were talking about with the closer, like Jerusalem, New York, Berlin.
Yeah.
Like that track is really freaking dark. Like it's literally about most of the album is a lot of it's to do with religion and the struggle with faith, and especially that one is literally recounting like the three most important places in Judaism. You know, Jerusalem obviously being the birthplace, and New York being sort of now the de facto home of the modern Jewish faith.
Yeah,
but Berlin, that's like the darkest point in Jewish history.
Yeah,
and the darkest point in the history of people that were like literally facing like bullshit their entire existence.
Yeah. So that is really heavy.
It is really heavy
to be like talking so pleasantly about it.
Exactly, and I think I've seen bands do like this before, but Vampire Weekend do it to the extent where it comes off as creepy.
It does feel weird.
They don't even try to like add a little bit of darkness to the oh, thank you. No don't even like there's not even like a soupçon of like darkness in the instrumental. It is like the most saccharine possible, like flower power ass instrumental.
Yeah, the whole album is so like sweet is what it sounds
sweet,
like.
Yeah.
For them to be singing about divorce and like lack of faith and
the Holocaust
and that kind of like just like yeah. It just that kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I think that might be the point though.
Yeah.
I think that's a very conscious choice.
I don't think even if it's a conscious choice, it doesn't make me enjoy the album more.
Yeah, I still think that like of course there is something to be respected about an artist that so willingly forgoes the convention of what or how an album should sound versus the lyrical content.
Yeah.
But at the same time there is a reason why most of the time you have at least some like coordination between what your record sounds like versus what you look like.
And there isn't a dark moment on the album is what makes it like if there was one point where it's kind of like okay, now it's sad. We're feeling real. It just feels like a cartoon Ronald Reagan like just being like we're all gonna die with like a smile.
It gives me the vibes of like 40s cartoons, like when like
Fallout. It just Fallout.
It is just Fallout. Like, and we're going back to Rich Man. Straight up sounds like a like something that we use in a Fallout.
Yeah,
game. Like just that.
I do really like that guitar sample though.
It's very neat.
It's nice
because it's older than time. It's like a sample from I think it's one like a very early recording, like the 10s or the 20s.
Wow,
like it is old.
I'm glad you did your research because I didn't.
I just want to know, like, did they achieve that through like just really smart production, or is that a genuinely old sample? And it totally is a genuinely old sample.
That's really cool though.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with Vampire Weekend is like you're saying. I did my research. I feel like there's no band especially in modern music that forces you to do your homework like Vampire Weekend. They are. This album, they actually at least try to be a little bit more clear. Like they said that Casey Musgraves was one of the big inspirations for them lyrically. Yeah, exactly. I knew you were gonna like that.
I love that.
In the sense that they wanted to present their lyrical themes in less of an obtuse way. But if you're going back to older Vampire Weekend album, they literally get the narrative across in almost exclusively references to history and literature.
Oh. That's so preppy and like
exactly. That's why they got labeled wasps like really early in their career.
They look and sound like
they
wasps.
look and sound like wasps. But like interesting, they actually have a fair amount of like diversity in the cultural makeup. Like yes, they do actually have two wasps in their lineup or in their old lineup. But now Ezra Koenig, who's sort of the big brain now, he's Jewish and of Jewish descent and very into being Jewish.
Yeah, I'm so into being Jewish.
It's not like it's my passion. But it's a big part of who he is. It's something that he strongly identifies. Yeah. And Rostam, which I'm not gonna. His name's Rostam Batman Gladji, I believe. I'm sure I butchered that name. I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but he is of Persian descent. Okay. So it's the cultural makeup isn't as like one note as it seems. Right. But they're definitely either way. There is something to be said about a band growing up in America and going to Colombia, making music traditionally sung by people who have been very disadvantaged. Yeah. And if anything, they kind of forgo that on this album. Like, I don't hear... There's not so much... The African influence is basically gone. Like, I think the one time we hear that is, like, on Bambina. where you have that Congo drum on the chorus.
And I do really like
And I think Bambina's one of my
Really good.
favorites. My only thing is it's kind of like a bit of a tease is that the pre-chorus on the first verse is so great that like life feels like heaven today, like that's like just so energetic, and it's like life did feel like heaven today. But then like the second time around they don't have the pre-chorus, they just have a weird like Splatoon sounds like
I like that banana. Banana.
it is really good, but like I almost want to know like what would you have done with a second like pre-chorus, because the last one was so good.
I think that might be like a picky, like pedantic thing.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
don't think that would be like. I think I can understand why you might not like that, but I think as a whole, I think that doesn't take away
exactly.
enough.
It's not actually a complaint. It's more just like it was so great that I could always use more of that, because that is one of the most singable parts of that album.
Speaking of more of that. So there's this theory going around, because we were talking about Old Town Road, that they made Old Town Road just a little bit short of like missing one chorus. So then you have to listen to it over and over again, because it's a short song and it's only like the chorus at the end.
Yeah.
So you feel like you have to go through the whole thing.
It is very cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
It does actually. If there was a 10-hour loop, it'd be very smooth.
Yeah. Okay, back to the Vampire Weekend. I think, should we like wrap it up? Is there like anything that like you wanted to talk about?
I think for me, I'm just trying to like the real weakness of the album, because I've been I really like this album. I really do. I'm a big fan of this, and I was really looking forward to this. So maybe when I first listened to it, I was like, oh my god, this is the record of the year.
Really?
Yeah. Remember this pre-Igor. So
yeah. Okay.
We all know what happened there.
Yeah.
And it still is one of my favorites of the year, but I definitely do acknowledge that there's a real attempt at biting off more than one can chew. And that is a common theme of albums actually I really like.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to really like overly long albums that like try too many things.
I don't think that's...
And it's not inherently a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they were like ambitious to put out like a really long album. One thing to mention that we totally glossed over is that the features do a really good job.
It's really smooth.
Especially like Sunflower is so good.
Sunflower
is definitely my favorite song on the album.
It is goofy as hell, but I absolutely love it. Mutt is my favorite track. I think like obviously like Harmony Hall and This Life are really powerful singles, but I've grown so like intimately familiar with them because they've been out for so long. That's hard for me to choose them as my favorite song. Yeah. The one that really took me off guard in terms of the deep cuts and saves the album actually in the last leg. Like if the last leg of this album would have felt really sparse for me if it weren't for Stranger. Really? I love Stranger.
I'm really not like huge on that song.
It is especially goofy, and it has actually some of the like dorkiest freaking lyrics in the album. It's like the one time where it's very obvious what's going on lyrically. It's just about a dude like, I used to be a freaking loser. Now I'm not a freaking loser because I have a girlfriend.
And it's like, I can use the word stranger in more than one way.
Yeah, exactly. Real eyes, real eyes, real lies, man. Like it's literally it's like the indie rock equivalent of like the
She Believed, He Lied.
of a spiritual miracle lyrical.
Yeah.
He was just like, dude, that's Big Brain. Upload.
Yeah.
But it's
also longer than like I think like the last like 6 or 7 songs. Like that one's like 4 minutes and the rest are like
it is 4 minutes because it has a couple like sort of little interludes. Like you have the it is like when they add saxophones in, which is actually really sweet. This is the first time we get saxophone out, and they add several. I think they add like alto and definitely baritone, which is really nice. Is the instrumentals on this album are just like so full of like all these like crazy instruments.
Yeah, I think the instrumental palette and everyone playing on the album does such an amazing job.
It's super well performed.
I think the crux, like the summary crux for me, is just the lyrics sometimes feel awkward.
They are awkward, and I think that's the key word. And whenever I'm discussing Vampire Weekend, it's lyrically they've always been a historically awkward band.
Okay.
There's like I think if I was sorting through the entire discography, which I've heard, because they only have 4 albums and they're all super short, so it's like you could listen to them in an afternoon.
Yeah.
And how many of them I actually understand versus how many I've listened to, it's like the ratio is really bad. Like there's most of them, and I think on one hand there is an improvement and it's less obtuse.
Yeah.
But because I think almost when you have the juxtaposition between light and dark,
Yeah.
having a little bit of ambiguity at least gives you some leeway to imagine other possibilities.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're being more blunt, then you are very clearly putting yourself lyrically in one color when like sonically you're in another.
I think he definitely puts himself in a corner because I just have a really hard time like relating to what he's trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. And but weirdly, this is one of the more relatable Vampire Weekend albums. Like the other ones are just like I just feel like an observer. It's like reading one of the weirder Shakespeare plays where they speak entirely in euphemism and analogy.
Wow.
How are you like a desert rose, dude? Just tell me how you feel. Like, how you really feel. Although I think this is an album I definitely would recommend and who just wants like kind of a good time. And if you are the kind of person that can like ignore lyrics or don't care that much lyrics, you're actually getting a really great summery pop album after.
Yeah.
Like this sounds like summer.
And I think there are songs on the album that like the lyrics are fine and actually great.
Yeah.
Like I think Harmony Hall, there's nothing like particularly like that I catch.
Yep.
That there's particularly like weird about it.
And also that because that track is it's fearful. It's very dark. It's about, I think it's very reactionary to sort of what the state of the world is right now. The wicked snakes in a place you thought was dignified. But it's also like, I think there's a sense of optimism.
Yeah.
And I think what they said about the record, I think specifically Ezra said about it, is that this was their Life Goes On record. And it's like saying, well, yeah, this kind of sucks ass. But like there is room to move on. And I think that's where the more hokey moments come in. Like, the economy's going to crash and the ice caps are melting and I could be tried for my religious faith. But I'm dancing with my girlfriend. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right. I guess that'll conclude the video. Should we do like an end cap? Or should we do that after?
Do that after.
We should do that after?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want to give your kind of rating, I suppose, of the album?
Yeah. I'm giving this album 4 liberal arts degrees out of 5.
I'm giving this album 3 accidental references to the Night of the Long Sharp Knives out of 4. So like, comment, subscribe, bell button.
Follow me on MySpace.
Go on MySpace.
Poppin'.
We don't have a Facebook or anything like that, so
We can.
We might do that. I don't know if I feel
Maybe
like putting
follow
in the
us on
effort.
Facebook. Schrodinger's Facebook. Maybe do it.
Next up, we're gonna talk about Supertramp Breakfast in America.